Unit 5, Skill 2B. What steps are necessary when solving quadratics with the quad formula? That's the essential question. Alright, so that's what steps are necessary when solving quadratics with the quad formula. Alright, so we've done the quad formula before, it's kind of a review, but now we're going to throw in some things that you guys have been doing, like or breaking down a radical. Alright, whereas those are the types of things you didn't have to do before, now we're going to be expecting you to do them. So the first thing when you're solving a quadratic, you have to know this, you have to realize it, and people still are missing it, so it's important. You have to have it set equal to 0. Then what's in front of the x squared is a, what's in front of the x is b, what's all by itself will always be c, and you just plug in. This formula is always going to be given to you, it's on the formula sheet. So let's start with the first question. So in order to get this set equal to 0, we have to add over the x squared. So we're going to add x squared over. We're going to have 9x squared minus 4x minus 16 equals 0. Then we need to find our a, b, and c values because it is set equal to 0. Those are given to us right in front of the x squared x and all by itself. So the 9 is going to be the a, the b is going to be our negative 4, and c is going to be negative 16. The next thing that I always ask my students to find is b squared minus 4ac. That way we don't have to plug it into the formula. We can just get the answer. So in the calculator, you need to know that negative 4 squared will always be wrong. I never type negative 4 squared in, I just do it in my head, or type in the positive. 4 squared is 16, minus 4 times a, which is 9, times c, which is negative 16. From there, I always go right to the calculator, push all the buttons, 16, and this is minus 4 times 9, you don't have to use parentheses, multiplied by negative 16. So times negative 16. That's going to give you 592. Not a very nice number, and for the most part, for the quadratics that we're going to be dealing with, they're not going to be. So from there, alright, we're going to have to plug it into the equation. Well, when I plug in negative 4 for my negative, or for my b here, negative b, a negative of a negative 4 makes it positive. So I have positive 4 plus or minus the square root of 592 all over 2a, and that's 2 times 9, which is 18. From there, I need to break this stuff down. So I'm going to go to my calculator, alright, and it's going to say simplest form, typically. That means you're not going to get a decimal answer, which is really nice, because if you just have to do a decimal, you just type it in, hit enter, and you're done. But it doesn't say that, so we have to break that down on the calculator. So you do your menu, 2, 3, menu number factor, and then that will give you 2 to the 4th times 37, which is really weird, but that's what it is. So this is 2 to the 4th. Change this color. This becomes 2 to the 4th times 37. And 37 is a prime number. That's just how it works out. So I'm going to have a square root that I know, and I can half the exponent, and then a root that I have left over. All over 18. It's supposed to say 18, but it doesn't. So I have 4 plus or minus the 2 to the 4th is going to become 2 squared, which is just 4, square root of 37 all over 18. This is where the simplest form comes into play, or one other part. So you have to break down the radical to do simplest form, and then you have to look at what's left over. Can I divide everything by a number? I have a 4, and an 18. All of those are even numbers, and I can divide every single one of them by 2. So I'm going to do that, and that will put it into what's called simplest form. So 4 divided by 2, I just write a little divide by 2 off to the side so you can see that's what's going on. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. The other 4 divided by 2 is 2 again. The square root 37 we don't divide by 2 because it's the radical. A part underneath the radical can't be divided by a number anyways, we all know that, so we don't divide it. And there is our answer. 2 plus or minus 2 square root 37 over 9. Okay, this next question says it needs to be in simplest a plus bi form. It still says simplest form, it's just the I is a little bit of a clue that you're going to have an I in the answer, okay? Or that you could. It's not a guarantee that you're going to have an I, okay? Which means if you're going to have an I in the answer, the only place that I comes from, and you should remember this, is square root negative 1. So let's jump right in. Let's get this set equal to 0 by subtracting the 11x. Just move this down. So we subtract 11x, get 8x squared plus 10x plus 11 equals 0. Now that it's set equal to 0, and I have it in what's called standard form, meaning x squared, x constant, I can find my a. There it is right there. There's my a, b, and c. So I'll write that off to the side. So a is 8, b is 10, and c is 11. After that, you want to find b squared minus 4ac. So this case is going to be a little bit easier. You're less likely to mess it up, but I still don't like to do 10 squared. I hate writing that in the calculator. I'm just going to write 100. Minus 4 times 8 times 11. Okay, type that in the calculator, and you end up getting, go figure, negative 252. So just as we thought was going to happen, we ended up with a square root of a negative. That will end up giving us an I. So remember, square root of negative 1 is I. So here we go. We're going to plug in now. X equals negative b. So negative of 10 is just negative 10. Plus or minus the square root of negative 252. All over 2 times 8, 2a, which is 16. And now we need to break this down. So I'm going to break this down maybe down here a little bit so we can keep that looking nice. The square root of negative 252 is really a square root of negative 1, and then we break apart the rest of it. It's going to give us a 2 squared, 3 squared, and a 7. So we're going to have a square root that we know and a square root that we don't know. Underneath the square root that I know, I'm going to put the 2 squared and 3 squared because I can half both of those exponents. That's what we're really doing. And then the 7, I don't know the square root of that. Come on. There we go. A little bit of lag there, I'm sorry. Okay, square root of negative 1 works out to be I. The square root of 2 squared, 3 squared is going to be 2 times 3. And 2 times 3 works out to be 6. So I have I times 6, square root 7, which becomes 6I radical 7. Nobody really writes I6. So from there, plug it back in now. Okay, take that answer and plug it in place of the square root negative 252. So I'm going to make my substitution with the 6I root 7. And then ask myself, can I divide anything? Can I divide all of those numbers that I have there, all right, that aren't under the radical? Can I divide them all by a number? And I can divide 10, 6, and 16 all by the number 2. So I do. If I could divide by 4, I would. If I could divide by 8, I would. But 2 is the largest number that I can divide by. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. So I'm going to get x equals negative 5 plus or minus 3I square root 7 all over 8. But because this question says simplest a plus bi, okay, right up here, simplest a plus bi form right there, we have to do one last step. We can't leave this together like that with the 8 dividing both parts. We have to separate this out. And it is as simple as doing just that. So this is x equals negative 5 over 8, and then plus or minus 3I square root 7 over 8. Some people get a little confused as to why we can do that, why we're writing it like that. And it's the same idea as if we had, let's say, 1/4 plus 2/4, okay? Well, 1 over 4 plus 2 over 4 is really equal to 1 plus 2 over 4. Okay, now everybody knows that's 3, but if we weren't able to combine them, okay, and we wanted to break it apart, come on. Goodness. If we weren't able to break it apart, we could go break this up to 1, move it over, 1 over 4, 2 over 4, and that just reverses adding it. Obviously, this would become 3 over 4, but that's the step. So we're reversing this process. If we had 1 plus 2, we could rewrite it as 1 over 4 and 2 over 4, and that's what we're doing up here. We're taking the 8 and breaking it apart and putting it underneath each part of the numerator. All right, moving on. All right, last example, here we go. Roots of the equation in simplest form. All right, so it's not that equal to 0. First move is to add 9x and 9 over. So we add the 9x, we add the 9 over. That's going to give us negative 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 equaling 0. Okay, so we have a equals negative 2, b is going to equal 5, and c equals 3. Then we need to find our b squared minus 4ac. So that is going to be 25. 5 squared is 25 minus 4 times negative 2 times c, which is 3. Type that in the calculator. It works out to be 49. A lot of you can do that in your head, which is awesome. X equals negative b. It's going to be negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 49. Now that's nice. Square root of 49 we know, but that's also different, so we got to pay close attention. 2 times the negative 2 on the bottom is going to give us negative 4 for our all over 2a. So from there, we have to do it in simplest form. So negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 49 is just 7. So we keep going. We have to break this up and get answers. We cannot leave it like that. All right. So x equals negative 5 plus 7 over 4, and x equals negative 5 minus 7 all over 4. Why is it not writing? Man. Negative 5 plus 7 is going to be 2 over 4, which then gives us 0.5 or half. And I just realized that I forgot the negative 4. It's 2 times negative 2. So 2 times negative 2, I'll put it in red. Should have been, I didn't copy the negative 4. So that should be over negative 4, and then we would have x equals a half. It's negative, doesn't really matter where you put the negative. Top, bottom, right in front, it's still negative 0.5. When we do negative 5 minus the 7 up here, we're going to end up with negative 12 over negative 4. So that will be x equals 3. So our two answers that we'll have, you can put them in brackets, or you could just circle them. It's okay to do either or. There is no particular order in brackets. They're not parentheses. All right, but when we have those brackets right there, they're saying these are just the answers. And we're good to go. Don't forget to do your summary. Show us the practice before you take the quiz. Thank you.